Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Happy New Year. I am Dr. Lloyd Parks, and I'm so happy to be here again, to be given life to share 2023 with you and to continue our continuous learning and development, networking, and our monthly webinar series. This month, January 2023, we are kicking off with a bang. We are doing what we teach, and we are collaborating with some awesome partners, as you have seen, you're seeing on the screen, and you hear a little bit more about them. And as usual, we are always focused on this business of how do we improve service delivery for our public services of the region. And we are looking at this dimension of quality management and sharing with you about the COPIS model. All right. So thank you all so much. And we always like to hear from you. I'm going to invite you to use the chat and just tell us in the chat, where are you joining us from today? It might be somewhere in our beautiful Caribbean region. It may be from beyond our region, but type in the chat. So Yinka, this is one of our alumni, permanent secretary in charge of the public service. So Yinka Grogan joining from Guyana. Welcome. I see Naomi and Villette and Nerissa and Jerma from Saint Lucia. Lena from the Spice Isle, Grenada. I must say, folks, I will admit my preference. The best dark chocolate comes from Grenada. Jamaica does a good dark chocolate, but it does not compare. No, you must try the Grenada dark chocolate. And I'm seeing Lisa and Tessa and Francilla from Saint Lucia. Yes. Welcome.
And Lloyd, we need to recognize Lisa, who is the director of the National Competitiveness and Productivity Council, who is also collaborating with us.
Yes. Big up yourself, Lisa. Indeed. Right. Katharina. No, Katharina is from St. Lucia. I was trying to remember what we normally call St. Lucia, the Helen of the West Indies.
That's right.
St. Lucia. Eileen is joining from Jamaica, as I am also. Yes, I see Tessa. Yes, also from St. Lucia.
Do we have anybody from, you remember Antigua and Barbuda is election day in Antigua and Barbuda?
Election day today.
Are they here?
I'm not sure.
Anybody from Antigua? Come on, give us an update. What's happening? Is it quiet?
Yes. No, I also know that there are some people here also from Trinidad. Yes. So Sarita, hi Sarita. Sarita Williams-Peter is also one of our alumni from Saint Lucia. Yes, indeed. Alicia from Saint Lucia. Lots of Saint Lucians in the house today.
Oh, yes. I'm loving it.
While you all continue to share where you're joining us from today, here is another thing I always like to start our webinars with. This is about why are you here? Because I know you're all busy people, right? Lots and lots on your to-do list. But you took the time not only to register, but to be here. And we at CARICAD and all our partners here, we are curious to hear from you. What are you curious about learning today? What do you want to learn? What is it about this topic that interests you? What might be some questions that you have around this topic? Or how are you experiencing or not experiencing quality management now? And so while I give you a chance to think about that, I see Colincia from St. Kitts, welcome. Sheila, Deputy Permanent Secretary Sheila Imbert. I had the privilege of being Sheila's coach. She's one of our alumni.
I had the privilege of being Sheila's teacher. At secondary school and for project management.
Look here now.
Exceptional individual.
Exceptional. She's one of these people like you feel proud. You feel like you did something good. All right, no, Tessa, I am so pleased. We're deeply honored that you chose to, join us even though you're on vacation. So thank you for that. Caril, yes, is from Trinidad and Tobago. Hello, it is sunny, carnival ready, Trinidad and Tobago. Right. Rita is joining us from Saint Lucia. So what are you curious about? Let me tell you what I think I am curious about. I am curious about here's a question I have around this. How deliberate are we? Have we been in our public services about this business of quality management? If I were to ask any of us who, and I know many of you, if not all of you, are from the public services here, what are the services that your particular team provides? Just keeping it at the team level. I could go bigger to organization, public services. What are those services that you provide? And how do you know that you're providing quality service? Do you even know, have you defined what quality is? And are we monitoring or tracking? Are we in a continuous learning mode around how we're managing the quality of service delivery? My dream is that becomes the mindset that we embrace in our public services. Now, Carol says, deeply passionate about public service delivery as a citizen. Right, so it's that passion that has brought you here, Carol, to learn more about that. Indeed, and you know what? I believe many of you, and I know many of you, as you can probably tell, you are public servants. And the beauty of it about being a public servant is that you're not only a public servant, you're also equally and simultaneously citizens of our respective countries and of the region. All right. Any other questions? And anybody else wants to share where they're joining from?
Yeah,
Go ahead, jump right in.
Yeah, Lois, we have about 60 persons in right now. We had 300 registered, right? So we know we have people coming from a lot of other places. Go ahead, share with us, tell us, where are you coming from?
Yeah, just type in the chat. Where are you joining us from today? And what are you curious about learning today? So we are going to start our webinar, the actual deeper going into the topic at 10 o'clock. And so I just want to not only say welcome again to those who have just joined us, but just to share with you a few ground rules around how you can get the best out of this webinar, to learn the most that you can, and to be engaged as well as can be. Davindra is telling us, okay, I see. So I'm seeing the background here, why there are so many Saint Lucians and in the room. I hear that Betty is the connector.
It must be my book. It must be my book.
So Arlene is joining from Saint Lucia. Yes. Haydeen is joining us from the Bureau of Standards, St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
A special big up for Haydeen from the St. Vincent Bureau of Standards. And special big up.
Joseph is joining from BVI. Georgie, also from St. Lucia, as well as Kit Joel. I hope I'm pronouncing your name. I love St. Lucia names, Kijuel Frank Amoroso. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Ooh, it sounds so nice. And I see Richard joining from my hometown, Kingston, Jamaica. Welcome, Richard. Welcome. No, I hope it's Nisha. I might be pronouncing your name correctly, from Inner Revenue Department, Saint Lucia.
We have Anguilla in the house.
Yes, Carlton is a regular. Hi,
Okay.
Carlton. From Anguilla and Jillian from BVI.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Are still logging in. So let's go through our ground rules quickly so we can have the most awesome webinar experience. So we don't want distractions, okay? So whatever device you're using, you might want to close the other software applications apart from Zoom and mute your phones. So you might be joining from your office, you can turn the ringer down. Remind your colleagues, this is your learning session. You know, we believe in continuous learning and development. 1.5 hours, they can do without you for 1.5 hours. You know, internet bandwidth can be a challenge. So if you have an internet cable, it's best to plug that in. So you don't absolutely have to use your microphone for this, but if you want, and there are opportunities to, you know, ask your questions verbally later on. So if you want to do that, make sure your microphone is working, maybe a good headset working one. We encourage you to turn, although you're also handsome and beautiful and wonderful looking, but you know, also to protect the bandwidth, we encourage you to turn off your cameras. It allows a better connectivity. And we want you to use the chat. Use the chat as you've been doing. We welcome the questions, the comments. And when the time comes for questions, we want to ensure that we, you know, distinguish between the comments as opposed to your questions. So if you're posing a question, just put a Q in front of it, Q dash, and then write your question. So we want to be able to just pick up your questions easily. And so, like I said before, my name is Dr. Loy Parks. I am from CARICAD, the Caribbean Center for Development Administration. I'm their Leadership Development and Institutional Strengthening Specialist. And I'm going to hand over now to Dr. Dubiso, who's the head of certification at the Saint Lucia Bureau for Standards. So, my dear Dr. Dubiso, over to you.
Dr. Dubiso, I'm just bringing up the slide for you. Just give me a second. Let me bring up that slide. And you should be seeing that slide, Doc.
Yes, I am.
Beautiful. All yours.
Hi, good morning, everyone. And welcome to the webinar. Happy New Year to everyone. This is the second of a series of 3 webinars. The first was held in September last year, and it was targeted at business leaders. So this is the second, and we targeting the public service. It's a collaboration of CARICAD, Moz Inc. of Saint Lucia, Quality Plus Consultants of Trinidad and Tobago, the Saint Lucia Bureau of Standards, and the National Competitiveness and Productivity Council of Saint Lucia. Next slide.
Yeah, yes, and I'm trying. Oh, there it is. Sorry about that.
Okay, and now I present to you our team of facilitators who will be taking you through the presentation this morning. We have Mrs. Betty Comby, who is the Managing Director of Moz Inc. of Saint Lucia, offering quality management related services, and is known regionally for a simple, practical, and engaging approach. She is the author of the recently published book, Roles Back, Working for Repeat Business. For more information, you can visit her website at www.mozconsultancy.com. We also have Mr. Patrick Jacob, who is the Managing Director of Quality Plus Consultants of Trinidad and Tobago, with extensive experience in quality management, health and safety, and leadership and teamwork. He is an IRCA registered QMS lead auditor, and IRCA is the International Register of Certified Auditors. It's one of the largest international certification bodies for auditors of management systems. And our third presenter is Mr. Devendra Chattergoon, who is a lead consultant with Quality Plus Consultants and is recognized as a quality management systems expert within the English-speaking Caribbean and UK recognized expert in quality management for the oil and gas sector. So you can visit the Quality Plus Consultants website at www.qplusc.com.
Thank you so much, Zenz. And I am Betty Comby. I am one of the facilitators. I want to thank Lloyd Parks, Dr. Lloyd Park, for starting us off with such a bang. Thank you, Lloyd. And Dr. Zenz Dubison of the Saint Lucia Bureau of Standards. So CARICAD is on board this time for persons who attended the first session, which was directed at business leaders. CARICAD is on board. You know, CARICAD is ensuring service delivery improvement within the public service in the Caribbean. Thank you, CARICAD, for coming on board. And so let's go through an overview of the presentation. So we're going to talk what is quality management, and we'll introduce the COPIS model. We will look at the COPIS approach and the quality management requirements. And to be even more interactive and to have you be more reflective, we have some self-assessment questions. We have 8 self-assessment questions. Now, these questions, the answers are for your eyes only. We're not asking you to share it with us, but reflection is important. How is your organization doing? How is your department is doing? And what Devendra is going to come in towards the end, and he will tell you how to reinterpret your answers. So have either your phones ready to record your answers or have pen and paper ready to record your answers. And so we're doing this sensitization today, and then we will talk about how that fits in as far as next steps. So if you think what we did here is valuable, you want to have some sort of continuity in your department or within your organization. And so we have some recommendations as far as next steps. And for anybody who has come into one of our webinars, you know we always have gifts to give away. So we have questions and answers for gifts. The beautiful thing, and again, because of time, what we're asking is, as we're going through, if you have questions specific to slides, just put it in the chat with a Q next to it. And Devendra is monitoring the chat, and so he can answer all your questions. Okay, so don't wait until the end, because we don't have a lot of time. We want to stick to the time. We want to end at 11:30 promptly. So if questions come up, if questions occur to you that you want answers, just put a Q in the chat, type in the question, and Devendra will handle that for you. Although if time permits, we will give you time to answer, we will give some time to answer a few questions, but we're telling you we're not going to have a lot of time. We know you are busy people, and we did not want to keep you beyond 11:30. Okay, then Zenz, Dr. Dubison will come back on to discuss the upcoming webinars, and then CARICAD, Dr. Lois Park is going to come back on, and she's going to talk about the feedback, give you your thank you remarks, and closing. Okay, so this is the plan for this 90-minute session that we have going right now. By the way, I will start off, and Patrick will come in at a certain point. I will tell you when he'll come in, but there is a chat going on between Patrick and myself throughout. So we wanted to start off with, the why. Why are we here? Why is this important? So we're here to sensitize leaders on the value of QM. For Patrick, Devendra, and myself, we think this is the most versatile body of knowledge out there. We are of the opinion that every single person should know about quality management. The beautiful thing is that a lot of you already know about it. You just don't realize you know about it. And as we go through it, and we're going to keep it simple, you will see, but wait a while, I know about this. Because this is about doing the right thing well. And for ages, people have been doing the right thing well, right? So it's nothing new we're introducing to you, but we have to now be more systematic with our approach. So expected outcomes, once you're sensitized, we're assuming that you will recognize the value of this and that you will commit resources for improvement, because this is about a journey of improvement, right? Then we have, again, what does further outcomes? Expected outcomes from this is that you're improving customer satisfaction, you're improving effectiveness and efficiency, you're improving productivity, you're strengthening your institution. And what is that impact? What is that final thing we're aiming for? We're aiming to enhance innovation, we're aiming to enhance competitiveness, we're aiming to enhance resilience, we're aiming to enhance sustainability. Okay, and so we're moving right along. So let's start off. So what is quality management? It is a systematic approach to achieving the objectives, and your objectives can be non-financial or financial. You understand when we were talking to the businesses, we stress the financial, but we know you're the public service, and this is about your objectives are different. But believe me, everybody should have a balanced scorecard approach, and finance is always important. But we're looking at both non-financial and financial objectives of your organization with a focus on customer satisfaction. I cannot stress that enough, because customer satisfaction is what allows you to exist. If customers are not coming in, then why do you exist? We have to keep that in mind. That is even as a public servant, if that's a public, because that was a question I was asked recently. What with the public service, why is that important? I mean, the government can decide to outsource the service that you're offering. So these jobs are not secure jobs. And so we have to make sure that we are relevant and we are providing value to the public. Remember, the public, the public is paid for that, they're paying you through their taxes, right? And so they're expecting value. Very important. Patrick, we're okay there? Talk to me, Patrick.
Yep, we are okay. We are good to go. Sorry about that. I muted my mic.
Okay, no problem.
Morning, everyone. I'm Patrick.
Yeah. There you go. And Patrick will come in. I'll tell you exactly where Patrick will be coming in. So we have the public service and perceived benefits linked to quality management. And what we did some research, and we wanted to identify those organizations within the public service that had implemented quality management systems. And we got organizations from Bulgaria, we got from the US, we got from the UK. So there were 2 police departments in the UK, and there was one in the health sector, and this is what they were claiming. The health sector, these 312 hospitals implemented this system, and this is what they were claiming. They were saying there was the increased operational efficiencies, they had reduced errors, they had improved patient safety, and they had a more preventive approach instead of a reactive environment. And the police in Phoenix, the Phoenix Police Department said they got a savings of US $11 million. That's a lot of savings, you know, because that's what happens with when you become more productive, when you're more effective and more efficient, then you save money. And the police in the UK were saying they had a savings of over £500,000 a year. So this is, any government would be interested in this body of knowledge because of what the benefits can be related to it. So it's benefits not just as far as savings, but benefits as far as the customer, satisfaction of the customer, as well as cost benefits. Okay, so we're moving right along. So this is it. Basically, this is what the presentation is about, and we've tried to capture it here. So COPIS, for those of you who saw the circular, you would know COPIS stands for Customer, Output, Processes, Inputs, and Sources of Inputs. Some of you might be familiar with this as SIPOC, S-I-P-O-C. But for us, we need to start off with the customer. If we're talking quality management, the starting point must be the customer. And so we have here the COPIS model, and then we're showing you what QM, how QM relates. So what QM does is QM tells you need to take all of these elements into consideration, right? But you need to do a number of things related to those elements. You need to address risk, and you need to address issues, and you need to check, and you need to correct, and you need to control, and you need to communicate throughout. And then QM says you must close the loop. So you must ensure that information is coming from your customers that goes back into your system. You must continually improve. You must get feedback. You must record your lessons learned. You must review your performance. Remember, this was about achieving your objectives. And if this is about that, then you must be reviewing your performance. Very important. But keep in mind, you're doing all of this within a context. And so be aware of your context. What's happening on the legal front? What's happening on the political front? What's happening in the economy? What's happening socially? Right? You must be aware of that. What's happening technologically? Be aware of your context, both your micro environment and your macro environment. And so for my part of this presentation, I'm going to address the customer, the output, the processes, and the input, and then Patrick will come in and he will address the other components of this diagram. Okay? Are we okay so far? Devindra, any questions coming in? Talk to us. Are we going? Any comments? Anything we need to note? Talk to me.
Yeah, only question so far is if the slides would be shared. And we will share
And
the
you are
slides
ready
after.
to answer. Well done, well done. We normally get that question. So yes, so the eventually know we're sharing the whole recording, no problem. And so let's start off. It's about the customer. It begins, I like to say the customer is the alpha and the omega of your system. Without the customer, you do not exist. You exist because of the customer. If the customer stops coming in, then the government might as well shut you down. It's as simple as that, right? But let's understand that our customers, and let's think specifically about our public, the public. This is about public satisfaction. Our people are very discerning. Our people want an experience. They want something that stimulates all their senses, I like to say. So it's about what they're seeing, what they're hearing, what they're feeling, what they're touching, what they're smelling. Keep that in mind. It's all about an experience. And so contributing to that experience is no longer just your product or service offering. It's no longer just about that. Right? It's about its availability and its accessibility. It's about the customer service that comes with it. Right? It's about your location. It's about the benefits, the value for money, right? It's about the environment, the physical and the psychosocial. And this idea of psychosocial is so important, especially for our staff. Remember, staff too is a customer, and people have to be comfortable where they're working. People have to feel they're growing where they're working. People have to feel that people care about them when they're, and the external customer expects the same thing, right? So customer experience is more involved than just thinking I'm offering a product or a service. Keep that in mind. And so here we go. Remember, we said we have 8 self-assessment questions. Devendra will tell you how to interpret those questions at the end. So right now, with your pen and paper or on your phones, here is the first self-assessment question for you. Question 1, are you generally happy about what you hear from the public? Is your answer yes, somewhat, or no? For your eyes only, this is about reflection, your eyes only. Just put your answer to question 1 somewhere. Okay, and we're moving on to now we're looking at outputs. And remember, we said customer, so the customer, you had an experience, but they had an experience related to your output, whatever it is you are delivering. So your output can be called your product, your service, or your deliverable, right? And we're saying there must be checks against the acceptance criteria and the customer requirement. So yes, in your department, you say to be able to deliver this service, this is what is acceptable criteria. But keep in mind too, customers might have specific requirements, how it should be delivered to them, right? Or something they want added on. So you also have to do that check against their requirements before you hand over to them. So this important check that has to take place, the most important, what I say, is against, if it is about customer satisfaction, it has to be about the customer requirements. That final check, go back to what did they come into you for? Right? Your aim is they have to leave satisfied. And we have to be conscious of what's happening in the environment. And so we have those undesired outputs. If it's extra paper, it's a whole lot of envelopes, let's get in the habit of reusing, of repurposing so that we have less trees being cut. And let's be environmental conscious as well. So be aware of the undesired outputs from your particular product or service. We're moving right along, and there we have self-assessment question 2. So again, those of you who may be just coming in, have your paper and pen ready or use your phones, and here is self-assessment question 2. Is your product or service generally acceptable to the public? Is your product or service generally acceptable to the public? Yes, somewhat, no. And for those of you who are saying yes, very good, well done, kudos to you. Okay, for those of you who are saying somewhat, you hear, and we'll get you on that journey of improvement. Don't you worry about it. Okay, we're moving right along, and we get into processes. Now, people, anybody who understands improvement understands that improvement relates to processes. And when it comes to improvement, how do you improve a process? There are different ways. You can improve a process by reducing on the number of resources. You can improve a process by reducing on the number of errors. You can improve a process by making it more satisfying to the worker. You can improve a process by giving more value to the customer. You can improve a process by making it safer, right? But managing processes is how you get to improve processes. So let's talk processes, which is such an important component of quality management, right? And in quality management, they talk about the process approach, which is looking at not just process management, but also the management of the interactions of those processes. And so we have value chain and support activities. For any department you're in, your value chain is that set of activities that allows you to deliver to the customer. You must recognize that value chain. You're not ready yet in delivering customer satisfaction if you have not even identified your value chain. So you have identified your value chain, and everything and everyone is working to ensure the effectiveness and the efficiency of that value chain. You know, I attended a session on Monday, I facilitated a session on Monday, and it was a pleasure. And I don't know if Malikan is in the house, or Malikan, who is the financial person at Ministry of Infrastructure. Malikan is the senior financial person, and he sat in all the sessions pertaining to that particular department because his aim was to better understand the processes of the department so he could better support their journey of improvement. Now, isn't that nice? And we need HR people, and we need finance, and we need IT to understand they have a supportive role to the value chain. Okay? Keep that in mind. And then if you're talking processes, you must talk PDCA. And Patrick will talk more about PDCA a little later. Plan, do, check, act, cycle. I tell you, I like to say it, please do come again. Isn't that nice? It's actually PDCA can also say, please do come again. That means so many things. And then if we're talking process, we must talk about the competence of our people. And competence is a combination of things. Remember, it is about your education, it is about your training, it is about your skills, it is about your experience, it is about your attitude. All of that makes you competent. Competent is your ability to get the desired results. That's what it is. And all of these factors come into play. Okay, and then we spoke about interactions. Whom are you interfacing with? You know, and then we could go into that's something we can have a whole session on. This whole idea of interfacing. And I say to people, whenever you're doing work, you need to think 3 wins. Win, win, win. It's one, you are doing the work, you must feel value. The customer must feel value, but the person who is providing you with information or resources must feel value as well. Because if you decide you're not talking to the person who is providing you the information and resources, you realize they can sabotage you, and there's no way you can deliver to the customer properly. Okay, so the importance of recognizing those persons that are you interface with, that their processes interact with your processes, and the relationship must be one that's cordial, people. It must be, because we're about satisfying the customer. Okay, then again, you know, SOPs, checklists, specifications, procedures, documented information. Documentation ensures continuity in the absence of any one person. Documentation ensures consistency of delivery. Documentation provides guidance. Documentation is related to conformance, and it's related to compliance, you know, and finance people can relate to that, you know, because you have been doing it all along. But as management system audits, we understand the importance of records, and records are evidence that work has been done, right? So have the records and have the procedures and have the specifications, all in the effort ensuring that if one person is not there, somebody can continue delivering to the customer. Very important. Another thing about documentation, and this is a question somebody asked and they wanted me to explain why it was important, was the whole idea of copying other workers into emails or correspondence that's going out to the customer. I highly recommend that. Again, if you care, and that's what it is, you know, people who care ensure that in their absence, The customer's needs and expectations continue to be met. People who don't care don't document. People who care document. As simple as that. Patrick, any comment on that there? People who care document. Patrick,
Yeah, my comment is that without the documentation, we tend to forget. So we have no continuity.
Yes.
So if you really care, you'd want to remember, so you write it down.
Yes. And you'd also
like
want other people to remember.
For the first time, you would write the number down. You wouldn't want to commit it to memory. If you're a young gentleman courting, you normally write the number down. You wouldn't keep it in your head.
That's right. And so you need to write it down. And it's another important thing I tell people that you must write down. To me, you are serious about customer satisfaction if you write down the customer's requests. You must have a document, and when I write, we don't mean you type it. You must have a document capturing the customer's requests. That way, tomorrow you're not there, the document is there, and somebody else can follow through. We have to think of ways that information has to be shared throughout the organization. Okay, and then you have metrics. If you want to control your processes, you cannot control processes without measuring. You must have data to be able to control your processes. You have to determine, right, what your targets are as far as those processes are concerned. So keep that in mind. There must be measurements and metrics related to your processes if you are managing your processes, in particular, to be able to control your processes. And productivity, like I said, it's once you're talking improvement, you're talking processes. And if you're talking improvement of processes, you're talking enhanced effectiveness and efficiency, and you're talking productivity. And so you understand why the National Competitiveness and Productivity Council of Saint Lucia was very interested in partnering with us, because they understand QM as a tool to enhancing productivity. Okay, and we're moving right along. And we have another self-assessment question. Self-assessment question 3. Are your processes, again, for people just coming in, I realize I'm noticing people are coming in late. And one thing about us, you must know about this, people. Once we are involved in a webinar, we start on time and we aim to end on time. So when you're late, you miss out, right? So there's a self-assessment question 3. Those of you who have missed 2 self-assessment questions already. And so here it is. Are your processes generally improving across the organization? And you can change organization to department. Are your processes generally improving across the organization or the department? Is that a yes? Is that a somewhat? Is that a no? Again, towards the end, Devendra will tell you how to interpret your answers, but you just need to write down or type in a yes, a somewhat, or no. It is a self-assessment for your eyes only. We're not going to ask you to share, but we will tell you how to interpret your answers. Okay, and we're going right along. And we come into the inputs. Oh, wow. The inputs, and so many things to look at. I mean, this is comprehensive planning, you know. Comprehensive planning is to take all the necessary information and resources into consideration. And again, COPIS tells you, start off with the customer. What are the customer needs and the expectations? Another term that's used for expectations is the unstated requirements. So they will tell you what they need, but they will not likely share their expectations with you. Again, that's why communication comes in, the lifeblood of any relationship. You need to ask, you need to know, because if you don't deliver on the expectations, they're going to be dissatisfied. Okay, so you need to ask and you need to know. Information, understand your context, people. A lot of plans are failing because we are not taking into consideration our context. What might have worked well in the US might not be applicable to the Caribbean. Consider the context, right? Consider the micro environment, consider the macro environment, consider the internal environment, consider your company's culture, consider your organization's culture, right? Keep that in mind when you're dealing with context, but be aware. It's a mindfulness of what's going on in the environment. Don't forget, bring in the laws. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Know the law. And I tell people, if the law pertains to your work, don't let somebody tell you what the law is. You read the law for yourself. Okay? Because my husband likes saying, everybody going to try a thing. So if they can get you to break the law, and you know you're breaking the law, they can do just that. But you need to know the law. Again, bring in standards. Don't start from scratch. They have these authoritative documents that exist out there, and they're providing guidance. So for whatever work you're into, do the research. Is there a standard? And if a standard is not there, is there some other guideline? Is there a protocol? Is there something to guide the work? And then you will understand too why the Saint Lucia Bureau of Standards came on board with us, because they understand the importance of standards to delivering customer satisfaction. And so let's not forget the SDGs, people. Our governments have signed on to these SDGs. These SDGs, they actually have documents that tell you what the targets are for each SDGs. You must know the SDG pertaining to your particular work area. You have to reference it, right? And you have to keep track of how you're doing related with to those SDGs. Remember, sustainability, and I like to, when I talk about the SDGs, I say to people, let's look at the pillars, 5 pillars. The 5 pillars of those SDGs are people, planet, prosperity, partnership, and peace. Now, people, internalize that. That is important to all of us. Okay, important to every single one of us. So let's keep track of those SDGs and how we're doing. Make sure that is input into what you're doing. For us, in presenting this webinar, we saw that these webinar, and CARICAD, we told CARICAD, we said this is related to SDG 8, which talks about decent work and economic growth. We said this is related to SDG 16, which talks about peace, justice, and strong institutions. Again, make that connection to the SDGs. Our government have signed on to those agreements. We have to be referencing it. And if we're talking customer satisfaction, then we have to be customer focused. We must have a policy. We must have a statement, something that says what our intent is. It must be a customer-centric intent, right? And so do it by a policy, do it by a customer promise, do it by a statement, but state your intent as it relates to the customer. And then we remember, QM, this is about achieving your objectives. And so know what your key performance indicators are. And within the department, show how whatever you're doing is aligned to those key performance indicators. Very important, alignment. So far we have talked about the whole idea of understanding your context. We have talked about alignment. We talked about interactions and integration and ensuring there's synergy. And like anything else, Murphy's Law, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So why don't you prepare yourself? Sorry about that, we switched too quickly. Risk and strategies. And Patrick will talk more to that, right? And finally, again, remember I told you, the customer is the alpha and the omega. So you got information, what they required, and now you need to find out how well did you do. Customer feedback, it is key. You are not on a journey of improvement if you're not talking to your customers about how well you are delivering your service. It's as simple as that. And that's just information. Now let's go on to resources. So we're talking about human resources, and key to human resources that your people should be competent, right? As well as that, your people should be comfortable in the environment they're working. And competence, again, I remind you, education, training, skill, experience, attitude, all of it coming into play. The infrastructure, the equipment, the materials, the technology, the environment, the methods and monitoring devices you use to collect data, because you're making decisions based on evidence. You must have data to support that. And my personal favorite, and notice how I highlighted it, the organizational knowledge, the background, the lessons learned, the problem solutions, etc. And this is why you record issues. And this is why you record lessons learned. And this is why before somebody leaves the organization, you conduct an exit interview. You want that information coming back into the organization. And so that's information and resources all falling under inputs. Devendra, how are we doing? Are we okay? Questions pertaining to this in particular you're answering, or we're talk to me?
No, we're okay. Some of the people that came in late, I've shared the self-assessment questions they missed. And
Okay,
it will be interesting when we get down to the end, and I have some information on that.
oh,
Thanks.
beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. So, you notice how we have it is so important for somebody to be monitoring your experience. And so there is Devendra opting to do that and ensuring he could, because Devendra can answer any of those questions related to the slide. So just post the question in. I don't have to answer it, Patrick. We are a team, right? So we're all on the same page there. Post your question in the chat. Devendra can answer that question for you. Great. And thank you that Devendra is making sure the latecomers are being taken care of. Latecomers, you are being taken care of. Thank you, Devendra. Appreciate that. And
Do I
here we
have
have
a special place in my heart for latecomers?
Oh, Devendra, I like that. Okay. And so this is my last, after Patrick is coming on after me. Patrick is coming in a while.
Yep.
This is self-assessment question 4. And self-assessment question 4 says, are you guided by standards? Industry standards, national standards, regional standards, or international standards related to your product or service? Is that a yes? Is that a somewhat? Or is that a no? And with that, I am going to ask Patrick to take over as I bring up the slide, sources of inputs. Patrick, all yours.
Okay, thank you so very much, Betty. I'm feeling like one of those soca performers coming on after Marshall Montano.
Yeah,
you know, he's a very hard act to follow sometimes.
He's
Anyhow,
a Trini, on your Trini.
Good morning to my fellow Caribbean people and people in the wider region. My name is Patrick Jacob, and I'm the Managing Director of Quality Plus Consultants. So happy to be here with you all this morning. And I'm bringing up the rest. So it's a COPIS model. So Betty dealt with the C, the O, the P, the I, which is the inputs. And now I'm going to deal with the sources of inputs. So it is common knowledge. And you public servants would know that any government, whether you are in the region or internationally, you are the largest employers in the economy by sheer virtue of the number of clients that you have. So it means that one little mistake, instead of affecting probably 1 or 2 customers that might be buying chicken and chips or going to a restaurant, think about the healthcare institutions, think about your roads, your public transport, your public schools. You would be affecting several people. In Trinidad and Tobago, of course, we only have 1.2 million people, but if our healthcare isn't up to mark or our roads are in a terrible state, you would find that lots of people would be affected. So it means that your sources of input must be not only credible, but your sources of inputs must be reliable. So we're talking about your suppliers. And as a public service, you are sometimes, in most instances, your own suppliers. So in that case, we must ensure that we have a proper and credible, reliable selection process. It must not only be just formal, but it must be thorough, it must be data-driven and consistent. And Betty was talking about documentation. And this is where I would also come in and stress documentation, because whatever you do, your hiring process, all your processes that would deal with the entire public, which in some cases will be millions of people, it must be properly documented for traceability, right? And okay, so that's, we look at the public, the suppliers, you have to also look at your regulatory bodies, right? All these are your sources of inputs, all the other interested parties. So your suppliers now, you must ensure that you have a proper selection process, as we spoke about, and the performance, your performance review must be geared towards managing proper relationships, because relationships is what is the glue that binds you and your suppliers together. So there must be proper relationships. So in quality management, we say that if our supplier is not up to mark, we want to ensure that we can give them the information, we could support them, we could partner with them to ensure that they come up to scratch and give us what we want. So you must develop your suppliers, because what we are trying to create, and Betty would have alluded to it before, is a win-win-win situation. Betty, you can bear me out on that. I
Oh,
have,
yes.
yes, Stephen Covey talks about win-win.
But we
Betty
talk
added
about
in the other win.
win-win-win. That's right.
Win-win-win. So this
That's
is very
right.
good, 3 times.
Yeah.
So this can be achieved. And of course, once you are looking at that, when it's selecting your suppliers, you must ensure that it is fair, that you have fair pricing. I know people tend to overprice all the work that they do for the governments. Once people are supplying some service to the government, they normally bump their prices up a bit, right? You have to have proper and fair pricing. You need to also have timely delivery. Time is of the essence, and time is money. And of course, the general public must have confidence in the services that you are providing. Not only just having the confidence, but your service must be easy to use. Now, I mean, I've tried to apply online for quite a few government services, and I'm bumped from one site to the next, another set of links from one link to the next, and so you keep going around in circles. So a lot of these services that we provide as public servants, it must be easy to use. There must be something that tells us, listen, we have to actually use it for ourselves. So this is where, and when I talk about the Plan, Do, Check Act, I'll talk a little bit about doing a little pilot project and doing the checks to ensure that the system that we have in place really works. So to meet these specifications, when you're looking at your suppliers, the prices must be affordable, it must be timely, must be dependable, and it must be ready for use or user-friendly. So with that said, we will now move to our 4th self-assessment question, which is
the fifth, Patrick.
The 5th. Oh yes,
Yes.
The 5th. Yes, question number 5. Oh my God, I jumped into your own. The 5th self-assessment question, which is, do you evaluate your key suppliers? So the answer is either yes, it is no, or it is somewhat. And of course, as Betty said, this is for your eyes only. For your eyes only, nothing else. For your eyes only. I'll give you a couple of seconds. Okay. So we go to the other one, which has to do with addressing the risk and issues. Now, in the quality management system, ISO 9001, some of you may be aware of it or maybe not at all, but 9001 clause 4 talks about the context of the organization. No, Betty really did beat this one to death. Thank you so very much, Betty. You're making this slide a lot easier for me.
You're welcome with it. I'm here to support Patrick.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much. So the context, Betty would have told you about the culture, your laws, your internal and external exigencies, your protocols, principles. All these would form a part of the context of the organization, right? And of course, when you look at that, you could see whatever is they present. But the thing is, we have to consider the issues. Whether there was a quality management system or not, whether there was QM or not, even in your home, the context of your home, where you want to provide protection, nurturing, nutrition, security, whatever it is, you must consider the issues. So but we're not talking about the home here. We are talking about the public service. And one of the 2 of the issues we have, I only selected 2. I know there are several. One would be the budget allocation, and the other one would be employee performance. So we could just take a quick look at some of the risk that would be involved with that issue of budget allocation. So you're looking at inefficient use of funds. When the money is not ours, we spend it anyhow. With our own money, of course, we will be very careful. So what we are saying that in the public service, we expect that you treat the funds as if they were yours. Because actually they are yours. You are the taxpayer.
That's right.
Even if it's not your own personal,
right.
But your aunt, your grandfather, your grandmother, your children, everybody that you know that work, that is their funds that you are playing with. So you have to spend it as if it is yours and use it efficiently.
And
of course,
Patrick, something to be said here. And
yes.
That's why when they're setting the objectives,
right.
Even if they're not a profit making, they too need to have a financial objective.
Exactly. And the thing is that is where the efficiency comes in, because you have effectiveness and efficiency. You have to ensure that it's effective, but in a timely manner, and getting the best value for your money.
Yes.
So in the private sector, it's a little different because the private sector is for profit. So they will be trying more or less to lower the overheads, you know, and how do they lower the overheads? Retrenchment, right? We have a little less of that in the public sector. So what they will do is that they would do some retrenchment, they'll try to improve their turnover. However, in the public sector, what we are simply asking for is an honest day's work for honest day's pay and a little more. And a little more, a tip more. And that would greatly enhance productivity, which is, of course, the strategy that we'll use. The other thing we would look at, or the other issue would be employee performance. And we know sometimes in the public sector, you know, there are not much bonuses and all the rest of it. So we tend to be a little bit, you know, not well motivated because we hardly ever focus much on the soft skills. And when I say soft skills, I talk about leadership and team building. It should all be factored into the whole issue of getting the job done. People must feel like if they belong. And you belong, whether you're Saint Lucian, Jamaican, Trinidadian, Bajan, you belong. This is your country. So we need to be self-motivating if our top management isn't doing it or if our government isn't doing it. It is not the government's country, it is yours. Betty, I know I'm beginning to sound like a politician, but
politics in everything, pal. Politics in everything.
I'm not choosing any parties. I'm choosing a nation here. Okay, so we now move to the sequence of actions needed to close the loop. So in slide number 9, where Betty would have shown you that this COPIS model, we have as one of the bridging documents, we have the check, correct, and control. That part of it. So in the check, so under checks, we have to check to see what the public needs, the needs and expectations. As a matter of fact, it's not so much the needs, it's the wants. Because the needs are absolutely necessary, but we want a little more. What we would want might be just above what we need. And this is where you as a citizen should think about the things that you want to see happen. You want good roads, you want good healthcare, you want good education. So then if you're working in the taxation office or you are the port authority, just think about it. People want good services from you too. So you have to check all the elements of the COPIS model. They must be scrutinized to ensure that the issues are accurately identified. You must identify the issues based on some predetermined formal method. You must have a formal method of capturing the data. And once you have that, you have to establish control points or hold points. This is all part of the checks. At what point in time, I wouldn't just process a form and send it through. Somebody must second check it. Even if you put it through the computer where you have the spell check or whatever, you have control points or hold points, and they must be established. So we're looking at the first item check. You look at the outputs, the processes, all of these things that Betty would have gone through, the inputs, but you have to have hold points, you have to have checkpoints, and let's get on to the objectives. And I know it is fresh in your mind because Betty has just finished talking about the objectives. You must set objectives. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. Right. That is, what book was that again? I think that's what it, Devin J. helped me with this. This was the Cat and the Tin Pan Man in Wizard of Oz, was it?
Alice in Wonderland.
Alice in Wonderland. That is what it was. Alice in Wonderland. I was saying Wizard of Oz and all the others. Well, that's a senior moment that I'm having there. Okay, so what we have to do, and on the other box, we are looking at the correct. So after you have scrutinized and you have done your whole points and all that, you have to address your issues by using fact-based data analysis. Collect the data, not hear them say, and he say, and she say. Get the facts, and you analyze your data. You look at your issues. Based on the issues, and your experience, you'd know what correction or corrective action should be taken, and you could analyze your data based on the facts. So if you don't collect data, and if you don't record it, you have nothing to analyze, so you might as well remove that correct box out of there. Yes, Betty, you're
Patrick?
saying something?
Yeah, just a comment to make here, which is as I go to different organizations, be it private or public sector, one of the complaints is that people are reluctant to record issues.
That is true.
And we have to we understand where you're coming from, because you feel as if, well, is you stating your mistake. And one of the things we say is in recording the issue, avoid blaming anybody.
Right.
Just state what happened, and it's not about you did this or you, it's just state what happened. But these issues are so important for data collection. That is the only way you can improve. Right? You have to see mistakes.
You can't improve what you can't measure.
Exactly.
You cannot improve what you because you don't know where you were before. So you can't really pronounce on it, whether it's an improvement or not. And
so document those issues so that it can be analyzed. And so we can start getting to the root cause and preventing it from happening again. You're on a journey of improvement only if you're documenting issues and you're documenting lessons learned. Otherwise, you're not on a journey of improvement. What do you say about that, Patrick?
Yeah. Which takes us to the other box, control, because lessons learned from experience and recorded outcomes must be studied in a bit to continually improve the products.
That's right.
So we talk about problem solving, corrective actions, and then, of course, improvement. So if, as a matter of fact, if we don't measure it, then, of course, we wouldn't know whether or not we are doing better or whether we are worse. So a salesman who doesn't do his inventory could never tell whether he sold more goods or products on one day than the other because he has no information. So we must study. We must record the outcomes from the lessons learned, right, in a bit to continually improve all our products and our services that are needed and wanted by the public. Okay, Betty, so, and oftentimes we really focus on, so Betty, so we look at that. Oh yes, I have a lovely video for you. I will be as quiet as a mouse while Betty plays the video, and we'll talk about it afterwards.
Are you getting the volume?
Yes, I am getting the volume. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a Porsche. This other car, I'm not into cars, but the red car is a Porsche. Okay, let me talk a little bit about it before Betty shows it a second time. I know a lot of you probably cracking up with laughter. I was the first time I saw it. So I'm not really cracking up too much. But the takeaway from this is that, oftentimes we are focused on what we can do and not what the customer really wants. We are always very happy to do something. And of course, my boy, he had his energy bar. So he was able to show what he wanted. And I guess he did it in good faith. So as concerned public servants, we are always eager to show the general public, our clients, what we can do. So this video sort of illustrates one of the shortcomings of the reverse of the COPIS model, which is the SIPOC model, SIPOC, which is figure number 1 in the ISO 9001 2015 standard. So most people who are quality experts will know of the SIPOC model. Source of inputs, right? Then you have your inputs, your process, output, and then the customer or the receivers of the output. But the COPIS model is just the reverse. So if we look at the SIPOC model, for instance, what this video does, it shows some of the shortcomings of the SIPOC model. So the source of the inputs, Betty, if you start over, we could talk about the source of the inputs, and you'd pause at some point in time. The source of the inputs. So this is the customer there. This is the customer. All right. And the source of your inputs will be coming in a short while. So this is the source of your inputs. So this is the full service provider. This is your service provider coming here to give you your inputs and your process. So he's going to give his input now, and you're going to see the process. So this is the process in place. Oh yes, and that's the output. Okay, so we saw what the output was. This part of the intervention. And I'm sure you heard the 2 hoots of the horn that seem to say goodbye and have a nice day. right? So that is where the customer came in at the very end. And what was he didn't wait to hear whether the customer was satisfied or not. He just gave him 2 hoots. Have a lovely day. And that's it. So we move on to another or self-assessment question. Right. So do you apply problem-solving techniques to prevent reoccurrence of your issues? So let's say you have an issue, but I don't see what this gentleman could have done to prevent a reoccurrence of what just happened. But what are some of the things that you do? Do you apply any problem-solving techniques? Do you brainstorm? Do you have little meetings? Do you do any sort of statistical analysis or any other form of problem-solving techniques to prevent reoccurrence of the issues that you have? So you have a choice of yes, no, or somewhat. Okay, so we would look at communication. As we know, communication is key. From the slide that we saw, from the previous video, there should be no doubt in your mind that communication is key, especially in the public service, when dealing with the public, especially as a consumer. So there are several bits of information that we need to collect. So as a public servant, you need to determine beforehand what those questions might be. Now, even within, so that's for the public, for your staff now. So the staff, for the staff, you may give them progress reports. Some people may give status of business. I haven't seen much of this I know people who work in the public service. I know this is not one of the things that they would do, but the staff needs to be informed of the hidden question. And that question is a question that most people would not ask their boss. What's in it for me? You have to, when you are dealing with your staff, you need to find out what's in it for them. Most people prefer some sort of motivation. People look for job satisfaction. Because, I mean, an increase in salary. A good friend of mine, an old colleague of mine told me before that an increase in salary only lasts 2 days, 2 months. The first month, the month that you got that increase, and the second month, at the end of the second month is when you decide what you're going to do with the extra money. That is why an increase in salary lasts only 2 months. The month that you get it, and the month you decide what to do with the extra money. So, and by the 3rd month, you are back to broke again. You don't have an extra penny to do anything. So the thing is, so what really lasts will be the relationships, the job satisfaction, and feeling as if you have contributed something. And of course, awareness. People need to be aware of what they're doing. Because what happens sometimes is that you get information on a need-to-know basis. And this is something that most people are not happy with, because we need to understand what is happening in the business. So all the other external parties, your suppliers, your regulatory bodies, they need to be kept in the loop. Because remember, they are part of your management system. They are part of the quality management system. And above all, they are part of national development. So there's a lot in it for them. And these regulators and suppliers are very critical because they play a very pivotal role in the drafting of policies and the establishment of common procurement practices that are acceptable by all. So Betty, anything to say there where so we are talking about procurement. You would have worked in the public service.
I think you covered it very well, Patrick. I think you covered it very well.
Okay. Okay, so we now move to the 7th self-assessment question. Okay, so in your department or in your organization, do you have a written statement that captures your intent as it relates to your service to the public? And when we talk, we are talking about something about, let's say, a pledge, a charter, some sort of policy, quality policy, something of this sort. You see it in banks and a lot of the private sector, they tend to post these things up very nicely. They read very nicely too. And they instill a sense of confidence. Do we have that in the public sector? Or is it your intention to have it done in the departments that you work? Is the answer yes, somewhat, or no? Okay. So we now move to the continual development cycle, continuous improvement cycle, or the PDCA cycle, Plan, Do, Check, Act. Okay, now in some areas you may see plan in the top right-hand quadrant. I am accustomed reading from left to right, so it's in the left side, and it is also on figure 2 of the ISO 9000. The plan is in the top left quadrant also. I just thought I should know that. So plan determine public requirements. So what do we do? Regardless of what we are doing, once you want to put some sort of structure to any sort of work, it must be preceded by planning. Sometimes we see some jobs that have been done and we believe that the people went straight to the do phase. They didn't think about it. There was no planning. So the Plan, Do, Check, Act, which is the Deming-Schwartz cycle, says that for any work that is continuous, and it's a cycle too, so you can start anywhere. But the plan must be in place and the cycle continues. I can start explaining from anywhere. But the plan must come first. You have to start with some sort of plan. So based on the plan, whether it's formal or probably informal, you must start. And I must mention, all management system standards, almost all that I have come across, are based on the Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle. Your first element will have something to do with management and planning, and your final element, whether you have 5, 6, 10, or how many elements you have in that standard, it will have about improvement, continual improvement, and putting your lessons learned into action. So, with that said, once we have that structure, the plan phase is normally characterized by the consideration of all your principles, your formulation of your policies, your procedures, right? All this will be in your planning phase where management is heavily involved. Now the do phase, in most cases, people just dive into the do phase and they execute. In other cases, especially in very high capital expenditure projects, you do a pilot project to see whether or not the plan is workable. So you'd hardly find that in the house that the housewife would probably look at, of course, you'd get your chart with your different paint colors. You know what the colors of your carpet is, the floors, and you'd want to see what paint matches the wall. So you might probably want to just touch paints, probably some small parts. Most people would just select a color and put it on the wall. But for bigger projects, you would need to do probably some sort of pilot to ensure, and while that pilot is being done, you'll be doing some checks. So let me give you a nice little pilot project. So in Jamaica, you're making your ackee and saltfish. In Trinidad, we are making our crab and callaloo, right, or roti or whatever it is. In Barbados, we are making our cuckoo and flying fish. Is it still cuckoo and flying fish? So we start the plan. So
Patrick, Saint
Yes?
Lucia, green fig and saltfish.
Green fig and, oh my gosh, that is one of my favorites. That is why I love Saint Lucia so much. You know, I've been to Saint Lucia 3 times already. And only once or twice in the other Caribbean islands. So your green fig and saltfish. So you get your ingredients together and you start. You have to plan because you might invite over a few friends. If you have 10 or 15 friends and a greedy one in the set like me, who loves to eat, you can't buy 1 pound of saltfish. You have to buy 2 pounds of saltfish or 3. And not just 1 hand of green fig, but 5 hands of green fig. So in the plan phase, so we have started. So we plan, we get all the ingredients together, we start to cook. But while we are cooking, that's the do phase, we will be doing some checks. We would check for salt. We check to see if the green fig has just finished, is finished. We want to ensure that the saltfish is not too salty and that it's tasty and all that. Similarly with the callaloo and crab, similarly with the ackee and saltfish. So the do phase and the check phase sometimes go parallel. So the check is where you collect and analyze data. So you're analyzing data by putting the spoon into the pot and checking to see whether or not, and in Trinidad with the callaloo, we have a way we put the pepper into the callaloo. And if the pepper bursts, pal, you have to warn everybody, listen, this callaloo will be very hot. So if you don't eat pepper, stay away from this thing. So you have to do your checks. You collect and you analyze your data. And all that will be useless if you don't improve your products. The next time you make callaloo, the next time you make ackee and saltfish, we expect a better one because you would have learned some lessons. This is what we call learning from experience, right? So you're going to improve your products and services, you're going to implement your lessons learned, and you're going to close the loop. So based on the lessons learned from that previous round in your public service, whether you are doing the design of roads, whether you are building roads, whether you're in healthcare, whether you're in education, port authorities, whatever, the more you do it, if you don't record your lessons learned, when you get back to the plan phase, which is the top left column, you'll be starting from square one without any improvements. So we need to ensure that we learn something, record it. So you have to, so the more we do it, is the better we are supposed to become. So forget about the PDCA cycle, forget about it. If you are doing something over and over and you are doing it and you are learning every time you do it, after doing it 10 or 15 times, you should be an expert. Isn't that so, Betty?
Yes, and Patrick, let's not forget the data that has to be collected is customer feedback. This is about
Yes.
enhancing service delivery. We need to
Yes.
talk to the customers. Were they satisfied? So in the case of your recipe there, whoever is eating that food, you need to talk to them.
Right. So that's exactly it. So we have the plan do. So we move to the 8th. We have an 8th self-assessment question. Do you conduct reviews of your organization's performance at least annually? Okay, I think we can move on. So we are going to Devendra, I think it is.
Thank you so much, Patrick, and Devendra, it's all yours.
Okay, great. So thanks to Patrick and Betty. Again, welcome everyone, particularly the latecomers. As I say, I have a special place in my heart for them.
And I know why. I could understand why, Devendra.
Right. So just for the persons that may have come in and not gotten all of the questions, I'm going to post them into the chat. And I'm actually seeing somebody else just coming into the waiting room. All right, so I'm putting all of the questions into the chat again, so that if you have not yet taken your questions and noted all of the answers, then you could do so now. Okay, apparently it's not agreeing with me. It's not allowing me to paste into the chat. Let me see if I could send it to somebody else. Nope. All right, so the paste isn't working right now. I'm not sure why. Probably used it too many times. So we do have the questions that would have gone before, and the scoring, as you see on the screen, add them up. You know, you have 8 questions, and if you've scored each of the questions, if you've answered each of the questions as yes, you would have a maximum of 40 points. And if you've answered all of the questions of as no, you would end up somewhere in the region of 8. So please take a moment, for those of you that have been recording the responses to the 8 questions.
David, I noticed Sophia Jules raised her hand.
Okay.
Could we unmute her?
Yeah, if I find her. I think
While
so.
people are tallying.
Right. Hi, Sophia.
Hi guys. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
What is question 7 and question 8? I missed these 2 questions.
Okay, I can go back to the slide.
Please.
Just give me a second. Here was question 8. Question 8, do you conduct reviews of your organization's performance at least annually? Okay.
And what is question 7, please?
And question 7, there it is. Do you have a written statement which captures your intent as it relates to your service to the public? And this can be by the way of a charter, a pledge, a customer promise. Do you have something written that is visible to your customers, internal and external?
Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Ms.
Sophia,
Conlon.
you're
Yes.
welcome.
Okay, so I think I've figured it out. Apparently, I was trying to paste too much information in the chat all at once. So I've split it into two pastings, if you will. So you have all 8 questions in the chat currently. So you can do your scoring, and based on the total score you have, if it's between 22 to 40, based on your self-assessment, it seems that your organization is doing well. And as we've indicated at the start of the session, this is a self-assessment. It's your own opinion. But as both Betty and Patrick have stressed during their presentations, it's critical that you get feedback from the customers. It's not enough to say that we think we're doing a good job. And as we saw in that little video Patrick had there, you think you're doing what the customer wants, but maybe what the customer wants is something very different from what you have provided for them. So it's critical to find out from the customers. If your scores are between 17 and 31, then it seems that based on your self-assessment, the organization is doing well in some areas, but you may need to look at improving in other areas. And if the score is 16 or lower, then it's likely, based on our experience, that you would need to have some type of expert support to improve the performance of your organization. Right, so Betty, I think we can go to the next slide, please.
Okay.
All right, so when do we start? Well, you don't want to be like this guy and wait till everybody else has started. If you're in a race and you wait 3.7 seconds, it's already too late. Okay, so maybe you guys are not running a sprint in the public service, although there are some public services which are extremely time sensitive. For example, when my father passed away some years ago and we had gone to seek assistance from the National Insurance Board, you know, there was, I thought, an extremely quick performance. I think we were able to return for the check the next day. So in those cases, you have excellent performance. Unfortunately, in Trinidad and Tobago, sometimes when you go to the accident and emergency area of the hospital and you go into the ward, it might take you more than a day to get a bed. You might be sitting on a chair in the corridor in the hospital. So when we consider the diversity of services provided in the public sector, the organization, each organization will have to define its own objectives based on what its customers require. And you need to know how soon you want to start improving your organization. And as we saw there in that little video clip, you don't want to wait until the other organizations in the public sector have started moving ahead. And then, you know, the Japanese have a saying, the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. And in the West, we interpret that to mean if you are the only person that has very long wait times and you're the only organization that has very poor customer service compared to other organizations in the public sector, then people are going to be looking at you and not looking at you in the way that you would want. So I think that's it for my area. So thanks, Betty, back to you.
Thank you so much, Devendra. And check your chat. You know, you were working on, you were checking on the chat and what's going on there.
Nothing since.
Nothing came up. Okay, beautiful. Thank you so very much. And we're moving on. And so next steps. So we have just sensitized you. We have sensitized the leaders, the senior managers, right? What's next? This is what we're suggesting. This is just a sample improvement approach. And we're suggesting that maybe you want to do a needs assessment, right? And find out exactly where you're at and where you want, first of all, where you want to go, where you're at, and then what's needed to close those gaps. And that varies for different organizations, right? We want to do a staff awareness to ensure there's buy-in. Another thing, I mean, it's one thing that management has decided to go on board with this, but you need to sensitize your staff because nothing is happening unless your staff is on board. So keep that in mind. So that might be your next step. You might be at a position where at this point you want to do an assessment against the standard. Maybe it might be the quality management standard, or it might be some other standard, again, based on your particular needs, right? But assess yourself as to where you're at. And then once you've done that, then you want to close the gaps. Okay, so this is just a sample improvement approach. You can determine where you're at and what you need at this particular point. And we have enough people in the region that can assist you. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, and so we are moving on. And we promised you we would give away gifts. And so we have some competition guidelines. So get yourself ready. What you do is you type your answers in the chat. So let's go through the steps. Fill in the blank item will appear on the screen. So it's an item where a word is missing or words are missing, but at least the first letter of the word will be written for you. The facilitator will type the item number in the chat. So Devendra, you would do that for us. So when it comes to item 1, you type item 1. So people responding to item 1 would respond below this. And then when it comes to item 2, he would type in item 2. The item number must appear in the chat before submitting your answer. Some people, because it's a competition, they way ahead, you know, but there's some ground rules there. Okay, you need to type the correctly spelled word or phrase in the chat. Ensure it is communicated to everyone and not privately. So please ensure it's on everyone and not going to anybody in particular. And 5, the first eligible person to type the correctly spelled answer wins a gift for their organization, with the exception of item 4. So the first 3 gifts are for the organization, and item 4, we have a gift just for you. Okay, so Dev, are we ready? Is item 1 typed up in the chat?
Just the words item 1, not the whole question.
No, just item 1, and then I'll bring up the question.
Yep. Great, you go ahead.
Go ahead, bring it up.
Go ahead, yep.
Okay, so item 1 is in the chat. So let's go on to the question. Just give me a second there. I need to just connect my battery's low, so let me just make my connection. People get
Thanks,
ready.
Patty.
Okay, and there we go. Item 1 is coming up. And item 1 is for an ISO 9001-2015 standard. It is for organization, and the question is, quality management is a systematic approach to achieving your organization's goal. Dev, do we have any correct answers?
Yes, the first one I'm seeing is, I believe it's Markathian Alexander. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that properly. The correct answer is objectives, not output. Somebody was a little quicker with outputs, but no, that's not correct. But yes. we have probably 20 correct answers, and I'm seeing 26 more. All right, so we have about 50. Okay, let's stop. We have a winner. We have a winner.
Good. Very good. Well done, Miss Alexander. Well done.
Hold on a second, Betty. Hold on. Let me take the name of the winner.
Sure. And remember this, we need to say that this was a donation from the Saint Lucia Bureau of Standards. If we can find out where she's coming from, by the way, it's going to be an e-copy, so it will be emailed to you. So Miss Alexander, where are you coming from? Could you tell us?
I think it is.
Oh, Mr., I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Besides, can you tell us where you're coming from?
Let me see if I can unmute.
Oh, he's male. Somebody says he's male. So my apologies. Right, apologies, Mr. Alexander. Mr. Alexander, where are you coming from?
Yes, I think he's unmuted now.
Oh, he's Department of Physical Development in where? St. Lucia?
Yes,
great.
Department of
Good.
Physical Development, Saint Lucia.
Well done.
Congratulations. So how do you pronounce your first name, sir?
Macarthyan.
Not too bad, I think.
McCarthian.
Great.
Well done,
Congratulations.
McCarthian. You know, you weren't a past student of mine, though. I would have remembered that name.
No, but I've
Okay.
met you before on the
Oh, but
school
you there.
compound.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Okay, Devendra, we have his name written. Can we move on to
Okay.
item 2?
Yep. When
We
you're
ready for item 2?
Yep.
Okay, so item 2, and this is for what we are promising you, that we would do a similar sensitization to your staff. So the person who wins this for the organization, we would do a similar sensitization where it would be more customized pertaining to your particular products and services. And there is the question. The COPIS model begins with the C and ends with the SO.
All right, so this one, let me see. Somebody almost had it right. Okay, good. The first one I'm seeing is Catherine with both correct answers. Yeah, some people split them up. Yeah, okay, so we do have a winner. Catherine Lou Atin. All right, so let me see if I can get Catherine to say hi.
If we're making a mistake in some way, somebody inform us, but we identified who we saw as the winner.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, good morning.
Hi. Is that Catherine?
Yes.
Hi, Catherine. Where are you coming from?
Trinidad and Tobago.
Oh, wow. Oh, Deb.
Congratulations,
I
Catherine.
like
That's probably Patrick's friend.
Trinidad and Tobago, you must get one. You must get
now,
one.
you know now,
Betty, you
Lloyd.
must get one. Give me that.
You know Lloyd expecting a Jamaican to win it next. Lloyd, where are you? Lloyd, you expecting the Jamaican
Lloyd, you
to
had to
win
wait
this
on
one,
that
right?
one.
No, man, the Trinis are quick out of the block today.
Dev, we have somebody saying something there. You know, we have Benjamin saying the rules of the session were to put the item number first. Did you not do that, Dev?
Sorry, yes, I put the item number, not the participants. The participants don't have to put any item number.
Yeah,
They
it's
can
just
only
yeah.
start-
There's
They
a
can only submit
misunderstanding.
the answer after I have
Yes.
typed it in the chat. I've put it in the chat.
Yes.
We don't want
Thank you
people
for that.
jumping
Thank you for
ahead. They may
clarifying
have
that,
seen the
Benjamin.
slides. They may have seen the slides before, the questions before. No, it's only when
Okay.
I put the item number in the chat that they can start typing.
Okay, so we are ready, Dev, for the second one, for the third question.
Hold a second.
Yes.
Somebody is querying the response.
Okay.
Hold on, let's deal with this immediately. I don't want people to leave with the impression that okay, good. It's sources of inputs with an S, and we have specified that the answer must be correctly spelled. So for the person that gave me the direct message, it was not correct spelling because input and inputs are, well, singular and plural, but different spellings. Okay. Okay, Betty, so we're ready for the third item.
Okay. So item 3 is in the chat. It's typed in the chat.
As soon as you turn the slide.
No, Deb, you put the item in item 3 in first.
Yeah, I'm just waiting to hit enter.
Yeah,
when
there
change
you
the
go.
slide.
That's right. Now I'm not bring up the slide.
That wasn't
Okay.
me.
There it is. This is again for a sensitization of your staff on quality management. We're coming in and help you. We're prepared to do that. So if you get that right, you have
Okay, we have
free
Joy.
session.
We
The
have
continual improvement cycle is
Joy.
known as P, and we have, I'm seeing, yes, whom do we have?
We have Joy Quinlan, I believe it is. First person to put PDCA. Some people before put plan, but plan is not a cycle. Plan is just one of the 4 phases in the cycle which was presented.
Congratulations to Joy. We have to recognize Joy. You know, Joy is Joy is a forensic science. She's the quality manager at the Forensic Science Lab. They just last year celebrated their attainment of accreditation to ISO 17025. Again, congratulations. So proud of you, the Saint Lucia Forensic Science Lab. So that's a Saint Lucian. Joy. Saint Lucians are getting it. Saint Lucians are getting it. We need a Jamaican. We need a Vincentian. We need a Kititian. We need somebody from Antigua to pick up a question, man. Okay, are we ready? Now, this is the final question coming up. And this final question is an individual prize. So this is not for your organization. This is for you. And let me just give you a little bit of that. And you were, when Zen was introducing me, she told you I wrote a book. So I wrote a book entitled Rollback, which is based on quality management, and it keeps it simple. It touches the heart, right? And so let's see who knows about the book, because this question is related to the book. Now be careful. Remember, each letter, the letters, there's a sequence to those letters. And so you must get that right. Devendra, are we ready for question 4?
We're ready. Go ahead.
Okay, let's go on. So is item 4, but Deb, I'm not seeing item 4 in the chat. There you go, you got it. Okay, there it is. And this is for a copy of Rollback. If you are overseas, you will get an e-copy. If you are in Saint Lucia, you will get a hard copy. And it says, in Betty's book, based on quality management and entitled Rollback, Working for Repeat Business, what does LLS represent?
And we must have correct spelling.
And we must have correct spelling.
Okay, we have a winner. Yep, we have a winner. Omar Hobby.
No. No, Dave, you know who that is, right?
No, Betty. Am I? No, sorry, Kobe. All right, right. My error. Good. So Betty, go ahead. You take it from here.
So okay,
you take it from here. You take it from here, Betty.
Congratulations.
The rules for your competition are the first person to put it in the chat. You take it from here, Betty.
Let's hear from Omar Kombi. Let's hear from Omar. Let's put Omar Kombi on. Omar Kombi, do you want to say anything? Let's put Omar Kombi on. Oh, he says give away his prize. Now, Dev, if we're giving away a prize, we need to give another question. Give another question to give away that prize. Okay, here is the last. Here's a question. Yeah, because we have a prize to give away. Or do you want it to give to the second person who got it?
No, well, Betty, I was just going to say that you didn't share the joke with the participants. I know who Omar Kombi is.
I ain't shared any of the thing. I said what he had to say, and he said give away his prize. Let's move on. So, Dev, no, at this point we can't go because people would have noticed what he said. Or did we have Michaela? Michaela? You seen that, Dev? Did she get it right? But they're not the right order.
Joy Quinlan. After Omar, it's Joy Quinlan again.
Joy Quinlan again?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Joy, what are you saying? Let Joy talk to us. Joy, talk to us. Can we unmute Joy? People asking for another question. Joy, what do you want to say? We need to hear what Joy is saying.
Let's do another question.
Joy says, give it. Okay, Joy, I'll tell you what. Joy, you give another question, because you're giving out Rollback, because you already have a Rollback. So
yes,
you give a question, Joy.
Okay.
So listen carefully to Joy. So hold on a while. So Dev, could you put in extra question in the chat or bonus question? There you go. Item number 4, part 2. I like that. Joy,
should I type it in the
You can type it in the chat.
All right. So
make sure this spelling is correct. We'll Peter
I know, right?
I want to apologize that we didn't anticipate that of people giving away prizes. So we're going we might go a little over, but we're almost there. People hanging with us. It's for a book, an e-copy or a hard copy, depending on where you're coming from. Either you're in Saint Lucia or you're overseas, you will get your copy. And that question is coming from Joy, Quality Manager at the Saint Lucia Forensic Lab, the lab that just got accreditation status to 17025.
All right. That's it, right? There we go.
The B
Okay,
and the
in
A.
rolls back, what does the B and the A stand for?
And we're not accepting anything from Omar this time.
Oh, looks like Lisa got it well done.
No, nope.
Oh, wait.
No,
did
that's
we
not
accept
correct.
it? We
That's
don't
not
accept
correct.
it. Something is missing.
No.
It's not go. Tamar
There we
got it.
go.
Tamar
All
got it.
right, good. We have a winner.
We have a winner. Tamar, you coming from? And that's Saint Lucia. You know, Tamar is Saint Lucia. I know it. Tamar, where you coming from?
Saint Lucia, Millennium
There
Heights
you
Medical
go.
Complex.
Well done. Congratulations. Okay, Dev, we're coming to the end. So this is it. So we have all these names. And then back to Dr. Dubiso. Dr. Dubiso, all yours.
Hi. Okay, so like I said at the beginning, we had the first webinar, which was done for business leaders. This is the second one, and we're going to have the third webinar, which will be targeted at non-governmental organizations. Now, this is not the end. It is just the beginning of a journey of sensitizing the region on quality management. So in the future, we will be offering other webinars to support and to ensure, of course, that quality management becomes a culture. This is what we want to see. So, of course, like I said, there are other topics. And when you look at the COPIS model, I mean, just by looking at the customer, this is a topic on its own. So all of them can be standalone topics. And of course, there are lots of other topics related to correction, corrective action, complaints management, which is a critical issue, monitoring and measuring. So there's a lot which will happen in the future to support the organizations, everybody, public, private. So this is it, Betty.
Thank you so much, Dr. Duby. At this point, I'm going to stop sharing, and Dr. Parks, Dr. Lloyd Parks will come on.
Wow, folks, what a wonderful, rich webinar.
Caribbean flavor, Caribbean flavor, Doc.
Caribbean flavor to the max, right? And so we want to invite you all. Roger of Virtual Producer, he's going to put in the chat a link to a very short survey poll. We all want to hear from you, how you found the webinar. We want to know if there are any areas we can improve on, all in the name of quality management and continuous improvement. And just want to also end with sharing just a few announcements from CARICAD's end. The call for our transformational leadership development program, that is still out. The deadline is this Friday, but even if you do miss a deadline and you still want to send nominees, please reach out to us. That program starts in February and goes up to early July. It covers topics such as leading self, leading in context and complexity, leading public sector transformation, leading through others. And the cost for this year has been reduced to, it is now US $3,500. I assure you that that price is the lowest you'll get on the market for that. And it's delivered virtually. Most sessions are going to be mainly on Thursday afternoons between March and July. And it also includes each participant being assigned their own executive coach. And it also includes using action learning as a part of the suite of developmental tools. So trust me, many of our regions, permanent secretaries, CEOs, and senior leaders have done this program, and trust me, it is a good one. Our next webinar is next month, February 14, and we will have Marva Smith, executive coach hails from BVI. She will be talking to us about the mindset for possibility. You don't want to miss that. Possibility thinking, one of those core themes in all of our leadership programs and the work that we do at CARICAD. So you don't want to miss that. So I think you would have seen the link in the chat for the survey. Is it there yet? Yes, there it is. Roger has put it in. Thank you all. I'm seeing all the comments and the commendation. Glad that you found the seminar, the webinar wonderful, stimulating, great. Those are some of the adjectives I'm saying. So Sophia says something wonderful here. The question have me thinking about the improvements I am making in my business. Yes, indeed. So please finish up that survey poll for us. We definitely welcome your feedback. And we'll really look forward to having you share not only CARICAD's webinars, but the other webinars that our partners are going to be having. So Betty and other colleagues, thanks for the collaboration. We look forward to getting the information on those webinars so we can also circulate those as well. All right. So with that, we wish you all the best for the rest of the day and the rest of the work week. Thank you all very much for coming and engaging with us so well. Thank you.
Thank you and bye everybody.
You're most welcome. Thank you, Loy. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining.